Good evening. Are we all ready to go? I am. As noticed, glasses are gone. Ignatius' letter to the Romans, which I've done this once. Camera turned itself off, and I'm struggling, and I'm still struggling. I think for certainly today and over the next few days, probably weeks, my dyslexia is going to be exceedingly bad. It's making this very, very difficult. So I do beg your patience with my stumbling reading and mispronunciations and actually using words that aren't even there in print. It's unbelievable. The letter to the Romans has quite a long introduction. Consider where he's writing to, and I will just give you a brief flavour. Faith in and love of Jesus Christ our God, which also presides in the place and district of the Romans. Worthy of God, worthy of honour, worthy of blessing, worthy of praise, worthy of success, worthy of sanctification, and presiding over love, observing the law of Christ. It's one sentence. There's actually a paragraph long. The letter itself contains 10 paragraphs. Yippee, you think it's a short one. Some of those paragraphs are a little bit longer than usual. So it's actually about the same length as the letter to the Trallians. I've got Tertullian fixed in my mind for some reason. So everything has Tertullian squeezed into it somewhere. And I don't know why. We're not looking at him. First paragraph is short. I've already read it once. Hopefully we'll get through it. Since by praying to God I have succeeded in seeing your godly faces, so I have received more than I asked. For I hope to greet you in chains for Jesus Christ, if it is his will for me to be reckoned worthy to reach the goal. For the beginning is auspicious, provided I attain grace to receive my fate without interference. For I am afraid of your love, in that it may do me wrong. For it is easy for you to do what you want, but it is difficult for me to reach God unless you spare me. What did you note? Obviously, he's on his way to Rome, and he's writing to those ahead. He's not writing to anyone back there. He's writing to those in there, to the place he's heading for. I hope to greet you in chains for Jesus Christ. So you're going to your place of execution. You're being executed for being a Christian by the government also residing in that place. And you're saying you want to meet the Christian community there with your guards in tow. Yeah. It's, you know, I suspect that the Christians of Rome got this letter saying, you know, you stay away, mate. You come near us. But he's then also pleading with them, almost, is he actually saying, do not meet me, because if you meet me, I might be saved, and if I'm saved, I can't be a martyr, and if I can't be a martyr, I can't meet God. He's determined to die. He's worried about his mental health, actually. For I do not want you to please men, but to please God, as you are in fact doing. For I will never again have the opportunity, such as this, to reach God, nor can you if you remain silent. Be credited with a greater accomplishment. For if you remain silent and leave me alone, I will be a word of God. But if you love my flesh, then I will again be a mere voice. Grant me nothing more than to be poured out as an offering to God while there is still an altar ready, so that in love you may form a chorus and sing to the Father in Jesus Christ, because God has judged the Bishop of Syria worthy to be found in the west, having summoned him from the east. It is good to be setting from the world to God in order that I may rise again. So he believes in the resurrection. He's a resurrectionist. It's actually really confused. It takes some study, doesn't it? It just to work out what the words mean. The altar ready is his place of execution. Presumably the Colosseum. He was going to be, you know, a warm-up act for the gladiators or something. It's an unbelievably brutal time in which he lived. One of the things that I didn't pick up on yesterday with the Trallians, but I'm kind of picking up now as thinking about it this morning, is that for people in Ignatius' time, death is very common. Death is a way of life. So he is not actually that afeared of death. It happens all the time. We live in a different world where we are very detached from death, and death happens sort of in hospitals in nice clean surroundings. You know, you don't find people sliced open in the street and just sort of step over them and carry on. He lives in a very brutal time. We, by comparison, don't live in quite such a brutal time, which is probably why the terribly violent crimes that happen shock us so much. And probably also why Ignatius is so happy to go and meet his God. You have never envied anyone. You taught others. And my wish is that those instructions which you issue to teaching disciples will remain in force. Just pray that I will have the strength both outwardly and inwardly, so that I may not just talk about it but want to do it, that I may not merely be called a Christian, but actually prove to be one. For if I prove to be one, then I can be called one. And when I will be faithful, that when I am no longer visible to the world, nothing that is visible is good. For our God Jesus Christ is more visible now that he is in the Father. The work is not a matter of persuasive rhetoric. Rather, Christianity is greatest when it is hated by the world. There's a lot in there. Christianity is its greatest when it's hated by the world is probably worth a book or two. Just that one phrase. Somebody go and write one and then read it out on YouTube. I'm trying to work out the words. As I say, we're having real problems today, and this is, I suspect, going to go on for a few weeks. In times of great strife, and I would like to say look at now, but I can't. You'll understand why in a moment. But certainly in the war, church attendance rose. In times of great strife, in times of great threat, and in times of great stress, nationally and internationally, church attendance tends to rise. And to a certain degree, the Second World War was an attack on Christians, certainly, but religion in general. If you look at the Holocaust, and I keep reminding people, 6 million Jews and 6 million Jews and 5 million others, it was 11 million in total, died in the death camps. Nearly half of them were not Jews. There was an attack certainly on the Jewish people, which is very clear and very plain, but there was also an attack on other people, and many of those were Christians. We're going to paragraph 4, then we're going to stop, because this is actually getting quite serious now. I am writing to all the churches and am insisting to everyone that I die for God of my own free will, unless you hinder me. I implore you, do not be unreasonably kind to me. Let me be food for the wild beasts, through whom I can reach God. I am God's wheat, and I am being ground by the teeth of the wild beasts, that I may prove to be pure bread. Better yet, coax the wild beasts, that they may become my tomb and leave nothing of my body behind. lest I become a burden to someone else, to someone once I fall asleep. Then I will truly be a disciple of Jesus Christ, when the world will no longer see my body. Pray to the Lord on my behalf, that through these instruments I might prove a sacrifice to God. I do not give you orders like Peter and Paul. They were apostles. I am a convict. They were free, but I am even now still a slave. But I will suffer. I will be a freeman. I will be a freedman of Jesus Christ, and will rise up free in him. In the meantime, as a prisoner, I'm learning to desire nothing. I'm learning to desire nothing. You know, the very last line. It's always the last line, isn't it? It springs to mind. Again, I'm reminded of Socrates, the death of Socrates. Do not be unreasonably kind. He's saying, don't rescue me. I need to be eaten by the beast. He talks of himself as a sacrifice to God. He obviously hasn't read his Isaiah. You know, in Isaiah, in the Hebrew Bible, we see God detests blood sacrifice. And Ignatius wants to offer himself as a blood sacrifice to God. There is also a practical aspect. Better yet, coax the wild beasts, that they may become my tomb and leave nothing of my body behind, lest I become a burden to someone once I fall asleep. I don't want to cause any trouble. Just get me eaten and gone. I don't want any trace of my mortal body left. I do not need people grieving over me. I do not need people trying to tend to my remains. Gone, finished, done. Ignatius is in the arms of the Lord, and there is no trace of him left on earth. It's actually quite compassionate to those. Dealing with dead bodies it's why we don't do it in this country. In fact, most of the modern world, we pay other people to deal with that unpleasantness. And Ignatius is asking that they egg on the wild beasts so that nobody has to deal with that nastiness with his body. It's actually quite compassionate, I suppose, for somebody who seems to be barking mad. Okay, we'll do the last one. Dyslexia is killing me. Camera's dropped out for the second or third time. I don't know where we are. We're going to pretend we're on paragraph 5, and at least that will get this video done, even if we do miss out huge chunks. I haven't got the time to look to see where we were. From Syria all the way to Rome, I am fighting with wild beasts, on land and sea, by night and day, chained amidst 10 leopards, that is a company of soldiers, who only get worse when they are well treated. Yet because of their mistreatment, I am becoming more of a disciple. Nevertheless, I am not thereby justified. May I have the pleasure of the wild beasts that have been prepared for me, and I pray that they prove prompt with me, and I will even coax them to devour me promptly, not as they have done with some, whom they were too timid to touch. And if when I am willing and ready they are not, I will force them. Bear with me. I know that what is best for me. And now at last I am beginning to be a disciple. May nothing visible or invisible envy me, so that I may reach Jesus Christ. Fire and cross and battles and wild beasts, mutilation, mangling, wrenching of bones, and hacking of limbs, the crushing of my whole body, cruel tortures of the devil. Yet these come upon me. Only let me reach Jesus Christ. He is piling his faith into Jesus, into the idea of the resurrection. We may have seen it in paragraph 4 if it recorded. He wants to be completely devoured. He does not want any mortal remains left after the beasts have had their fun. As I have alluded to previously, even he is aware that and if when I am willing and ready they are not, I will force them. he knows that the beasts are not always what they're cracked up to be. Actually, they tended to be very sick and very poorly beasts and couldn't really be bothered to chase people. They were then, of course, hacked to bits as well because people thought it was funny. I'm not going any further. I'm just going to move on to 6, but there is a lot there. He knows it's not going to be a quick or pleasant death. Fire and cross and battles with wild beasts, mutilations, mangling, wrenching of bones, the hacking of limbs, the crushing of my body, the cruel tortures of the devil. These things are the cruel tortures of the devil. He faces, as Christ was tried in the wilderness, Ignatius is going to be tried by the wild beasts. The end result for both the historical figure of Jesus and for Ignatius, bishop and martyr, are the same. That is his thinking. And it's becoming more intense as we approach Rome. Tomorrow, probably more of the same, actually. Yeah. Please don't save me. Please don't rescue me. Courage the beasts. And he's talking about what his desires are and why he's going there. It's more of an insight into Ignatius and the state of his mind, perhaps, than it is of the theology. And then we've got the letter to the Philadelphians. That's going to be fun to say, isn't it? Thank you very much for putting up with my dyslexic ramblings. And I do apologise for the problems with the camera. And hopefully we'll be back tomorrow night if I haven't blown my stack by then. Thank you again. Good night.